Kumho Tires, official partner of AutoGP.
Hello everybody and welcome to the Brno circuit in the Czech Republic. I'm Jake Sanson, beside me is Tom Gaymore, and what a weekend you've joined us on. It's glorious sunshine and it sets things up very nicely for the finale of the 2013 AutoGP World Series. 4 drivers in contention for the championship heading into this weekend. Tom, I'm very excited, are you?
Oh, really excited because it's all to play for. This is everything that a championship sets out to achieve at the beginning of the year, and these drivers have gone along with the script, haven't they? And this is the grid.
So Girelli starting from pole position for only the 2nd time this year, along with Kevin Giovese, the boy wonder who's really made an impact in this second half of the season. Alongside Narayan Karthikeyan is the youngest man in the field, Robert Vizoiu, alongside the oldest man in the field, Sergio Campana and Tomas Palkis on row 3, along with Mendert van Buren and Kimiya Sato, one of the 4 championship contenders, down in 8th on the grid. That won't be easy reading for him. Daniel De Jong and Andrea Roda on row 5, with the Venezuelan charge Roberto La Rocca in 11th alongside Max Snegerev. Yoshitaka Kuroda and local boy Joseph Kral on row 7, ahead of Francesco Trocconi, Michele Cerruti and Michele La Rosa. So we have our 17 drivers. Joseph Kral there, becoming the 24th driver to start a race in AutoGP in 2013. Shame we haven't had that many all year long, but next year it's looking a little bit more possible that we might get more of a grid number, Tom.
Yeah, there's lots of incentives to be involved in this championship next year. There's prize money, which is very attractive at this level of racing, because these guys are fighting for budget, and so that gives them an opportunity to have some continuity. To, if you do well, you can be in the competition the next week running. And we also have big teams like Euro International that are looking to come across from Formula Renault 3.5, and they've had a real strong history in the junior echelons of motorsport underneath Formula 1. So it's continuously growing, and it's a nice user-friendly championship. The budgets aren't really ridiculous, and I think you can do one of these, or you can do a year in AutoGP for not much more than sort of Formula Renault 2-litre money, which is really good. It gives youngsters an opportunity to drive big, fast cars for not huge sums of money.
There's also a rumour going around that Fortec may be picking up their toys to come and play in AutoGP next year. So several drivers in the Fortec fold may well get a drive in AutoGP next year. Interesting in the press this week, championship leader, 19-year-old Vittorio Girelli, stated that this is the perfect stepping stone for GP2. Is that a fair assessment, Tom?
Yes, because the cars are big and they're fast. In terms of aerodynamic grip, still a little bit behind. Maybe, well, we know the tyres are very different. The Pirelli tyre is like no other tyre in the junior formulas. The Kumho tyre that we see on Andrea Roda's car there, this is a much more durable tyre. It's very similar to the Michelin of Formula Renault 3.5. So in terms of speed, yes, and your brain has to work much harder if you're coming up from Formula Renault 2-litre, so to speak, into a car like this. You know, you're going to get everywhere on the track a lot quicker, and there's a lot more power. You've got to manage the rear tyres, and so I think it's a fair assumption.
So 4 drivers then able to compete for the championship going into this weekend. Vittorio Girelli is the championship leader with 191 points. 11 further back is the Japanese star Kimiya Sato. Then 17 points behind Girelli is Sergio Campana, his fellow countryman. And on 170 is the Indian Narayan Karthikeyan. Those of you Formula 1 fans will of course remember him from his days at Jordan as Williams test driver and as an HRT driver as recently as 2012. So he's certainly still very much an active force in the world of single-seaters. Here is one of the championship contenders, Kimiya Sato of Japan. Very much heavily a Formula 3 driver in his home country until about 2011 when he switched to the European Championship. He's actually impressed me at times here, but there's just been one too many mistakes here and there from Kimiya this year.
He's gone off the board. He started off very, very well, and then he had the Silverstone Young Driver Test where he was in Formula 1 machinery in the midpoint of the year. And ever since then, Kimiya Sato maybe not realised the sort of pace that he had at the beginning of the year. That said, he's done a better job than Sergio Campana, who is somebody that was leading earlier on in the season as well, who's really gone off the ball in the second half of the season. But, you know, Kimiya hasn't really been able to compete with Girelli and Kartikeyan, and the Supernova cars have really found themselves at the front. And that in itself is a problem, and then he's found, you know, little issues. He made a mistake at Donington. McLean's went off all by himself. Then Christian Klein came in at Mugello and fired him off at the first corner, his teammate. And so it just hasn't quite worked out at the end for Kimiya Sato, but a real talent nevertheless. And, you know, we've got 2 races here this weekend. He starts further back, so he's got to really make a good start and get pushing straight away. But anything can happen, as we saw, or we've seen throughout history, and we see in other sports. Look at the America's Cup a couple of weeks ago. You know, you can overturn huge deficits right at the last minute.
Kispel Tamás, the Hungarian, a driver I rate quite highly. It's just about getting himself into the right machinery at the right time. It hasn't quite happened for him yet, but a good potential race here or there, it certainly could change things around for him. He needs that. He needs something special to really get his career going. He's had a good start. He just needs something a little bit extra special to add to it. And here alongside him, Sergio Campana, as we said, he's gone off the boil a little bit this year. Bit disappointing to see him down in 5th on the grid. He is, of course, the most experienced AutoGP driver of all 4 championship contenders. He was in the series last year, so a lot of people might have thought that he was very much in pole position to take this championship, and he was leading it earlier on. But the supremacy of Supernova in the second half of the season, it's really come back and bit him, hasn't it?
It's just gone away from him. He hasn't really been able to be consistent, hasn't made the mistakes that Kimiya Sato's made, but hasn't had the pace. So at least Kimiya has been there and thereabouts. But yeah, the pace is the real worry for Sergio Campana. As you said, came into the championship in 2012. Did a fairly good job as a rookie and came back as one of the championship favourites, and certainly the first half of the season where he recorded, you know, 2 wins. I mean, he had 3 podiums in the first 5 races, and when he wasn't on the podium, he was 4th. So he's been thereabouts. Going back to Palkis, he's a real talent. He needs a pot of gold from somewhere, as do half of the drivers on this grid. He hasn't really got the money to progress at the moment, and it's hindering him because he's got talent, but he hasn't got the stability to showcase his talent, moving from formula to formula, team to team. It's not really a basis for long-term development, and he's still learning. He's a youngster, so, you know, I do feel for him, but he's qualified reasonably well, and I think will showcase his talents today.
Now, here's a chap I've been very impressed with the second half of the season, Kevin Giovesi, the Italian. If he had started this season at the first race, he didn't. He started at Silverstone, of course, but he has actually outscored both Kimiya Sato and Sergio Campana since he's been here. Only the Supernovas have scored more points than him this year. So if he'd started this year at the very first race, goodness knows, we could have had 5 drivers competing for the championship. He's certainly put on some great performances. No victories yet from Giovesi, of course, but certainly a couple of podiums. He knows how to get the best out of his Ghinzani car, and he could well have been a factor had he started, but this is the man. He is one of the 4, and he is leading the championship, but you've got to say he's the favourite. He has been on the podium at least once at every racetrack we've been to so far.
Well, he tends to deliver, doesn't he? And that's what he's done today. When the pressure's on, regardless of whether or not Kartikeyan has missed out on pole because of the red flag in qualifying, this man found himself in the right place and made his own luck. And, you know, when we come back from the break, we'll see what he can do.
Kumho Tires, official partner of AutoGP.
You join us at the Mazirak circuit at Brno in the Czech Republic for the championship deciding weekend of the AutoGP World Series. And there's the point situation. Girelli has 192 to Kimiya Sato on 180. Sergio Campana with 174 and Narayan Karthikeyan with 170. 21 points covering the top 4 drivers with 47 points available after Girelli got the 1 point for pole position. And that's exactly the best place to start from, heading down to the first corner here. I'm Jake Sanson, alongside me is Tom Gaymore, and this championship is very much open to any one of those four.
Yeah, it's all to play for, isn't it? We've got strategy in this race as well, so pit stops is not just down to the drivers. The teams will play a part. The TMs, team managers and engineers will be trying to play their part, so to speak, and the mechanics also. It's a team game, isn't it, motorsport? You have to be able to rely on your mechanics, because a second lost in the pit lane is an eternity out on track, and this man Kimi Sato has it all to do. He's the one with the hardest job of all, I think.
Yep, starting back in 8th on the grid, and he's going to try and work his way through the field to get back up into the top 4, and competing with the might of the Supernova cars, who are looking a bit like they were in the Formula 3000 days. They're just dominant at this point in the season. Both Giletti and Karthikeyan are at their peak at the moment, and you have to kind of say, going into this, it's going to be one of them that wins race 1.
Yeah, David Sears knows how to run a race team, and it's a long run down into turn 1 here. Reasonably fast entry that then tightens, and if you don't make a good start, you've really got your work cut out. So first rule of thumb for Girelli, make a good start and then try and fight the rest off into turn 1.
Girelli and Giovese on the front row, Karthikeyan and Visoyu on row 2, Campana and Keese on row 3. The lights are going on. When they go out, we are racing for race 1 here at Brno. Go! Good start by Karthikeyan, he's blasting through the middle. Giovese's got a brilliant start, Girelli's got a terrible start. Down to 3rd, 4th position. Visoyu going round the outside, and Karthikeyan hits the front. Giovese 2nd, Visoyu round the outside. Girelli getting a terrible start, down to 4th position. Now still side by side with the Romanian Visoyu, who shuts the door. He's up into 4th place, and it looks like a good start too from, I think that's one of the Manor MP cars, possibly Mendert van Buren, who's up to 5th place. Sato trying to make his way to 5th position, up the inside. Oh dear, he manages to get past Campana, but not past Van Buren. So, Van Buren there, 5th position from Sato, Keese, Campana, De Jong and Draconi, but Karthikeyan out in front, and this is heaven sent. Now we've got Girelli passing Giovese. Visoyu's got past both of them round the outside. What an opening lap.
What an opening lap from Visoyu. Great starts from Karthikeyan and Visoyu. Interestingly enough, Kimi Sato made a good start, couldn't quite get up the inside of Van Buren into turn 1, then had to go defensive with Campana sending it up the inside into turn 3. In turn, Kimi Sato almost got back up the inside of Van Buren. Luckily there wasn't contact, but he's had to defend from then, and so he's got his mirrors full. I think it's Palkis now behind who's got ahead of Van Buren, and Giovese's slowing.
Yeah, Giovese's slowing there. He's lost an awful lot of time. What on earth could have gone wrong on the first lap, having had that disappointing start where he lost a couple of positions, gained it back, and now he's just falling away to the back of the grid. Something's gone, maybe electronic, maybe hydraulic, but something has gone, and that has put Kevin Giovese out of the race on the first lap. What a heartbreaker.
Well, this is looking ominous already for the rest of the field. Karthikeyan is very quick around here, was very quick in all the practice sessions, fastest in both of them, should have been quickest in qualifying, was it not for a Josef Krau red flag that meant that Karthikeyan couldn't finish his lap. There wasn't enough time to get heat in the tyres and go again, and so he lined up 3rd on the grid. But an absolutely amazing start from the 2nd row has seen him in the driving seat, and expecting just to drive away now, such as his pace dominance. Visoyu doing his level best to keep him honest. Girelli will want to get past Visoyu, in turn stay ahead of Kimi Sato. He's got Van Buren in between himself and Kimi Sato, but Kimi Sato did make a good start. It's a shame that he couldn't just quite get up the inside of Van Buren into turn 1.
And Sergio Campana, one of the other championship contenders, is having a real can of worms opened here. He's stuck behind Tomas Palkis, the Hungarian, who's just behind Sato. So now he's losing points and time hand over fist. It's looking like game on for Sato if he can just get a little bit further up. Campana is looking out of it, and this is very much Supernova's title to claim.
You're never quite out of it, still a long way to go, but Campana did lose that place to Palkis, trying to get up the inside of Kimi Sato into turn 3 on that opening lap. So he did go for gold, didn't quite work out. He'll have to go back to the drawing board and find a way past Palkis. You're not going to pass Palkis that easily. He's a real dogged, determined, quick youngster, and you're going to have to break pretty late to get back up the inside of him, and this circuit doesn't really allow for much overtaking in sectors 2 and 3 because of the nature of the way it flows and ebbs. The braking zones are not long enough to really get an advantage, and the minimum speed's too high. Quite a lot of medium speed corners. It's not till you get out of the last turn 15 and onto this straight, that you have a real chance to pass the car in front. Look, and now Paukis all the way up behind Sato.
Is he going to make the move sweeping around the outside? Sato is defending as valiantly as he can. As you said, a fairly fast entry speed that tightens on the exit. Sato carrying the speed on the inside line, and he slams the door firmly shut. There's no way Tamas Paukis is going to get through there, but he's still got momentum. He's still got the slipstream. He's going to try round the outside. Sato defends on the inside, and Tamas Paukis, this battle really helping Sergio Campana here because he can read the situation. He got him round the outside. So Tamas Paukis has taken crucial points away from Kamiya Sato, and this is Sergio Campana's opportunity. Sato's rattled, Sato's frustrated, and he's looking. He's not making the move, but he's just popping his nose in there, letting Sato know, you ain't done yet, mate.
Yeah, this is going to go down to the wire, isn't it? Because now Sato knows to tail with Campana. Campana has to beat him on the road. You know, there's no two ways about it. So it's win it or bin it as far as Sergio Campana is concerned. And obviously they have the second race tomorrow, but nevertheless, he really does need to finish ahead of Sato going into tomorrow's race.
Well, out in front, Narain Karthikeyan, the oldest man in the field, is leading the youngest man in the field, the Romanian Robert Vizoiu, and that's helping Karthikeyan. It's kind of hindering Girelli, but it means that the difference in the points they'll score from this race, Karthikeyan, if he can set the fastest lap as well, that'll be crucial because there's an extra point in that. He'll reduce the gap by about 11 points, I think, from my best calculations, to Girelli, which will drop the points gap down to 11 because, of course, a bonus point was scored by Girelli for getting the pole position. So that would mean there'd be just 11 points between them going into the race. And to be honest, that's good, but it's not quite enough really for Karthikeyan to overhaul Girelli, considering that Girelli, all he has to do is just sit behind Karthikeyan, even for this race and tomorrow's, and he'd still have enough to be champion.
That's the frustrating element for Karthikeyan. You've called it absolutely spot on there, Jake. He can only do his best. His best is win the race and get fastest lap. Girelli just needs to follow him and put himself under really minimal threat. He's under minimal threat now. He doesn't need to throw it away by doing anything stupid with Vizoiu. He's not under any pressure from Van Buren behind him. So this is actually not a bad position for Girelli. He'll look to leapfrog Vizoiu in the pit stop sequence and then really just follow Karthikeyan home. And that's really if Karthikeyan does, you know, we've got to see how good his pace is in the second element to the race. There is a bit of tyre strategy that goes in to these races, so it can change.
Absolutely. We've got this 4-car train here. Mendet Van Buren is the head of the field. Tamas Paukis second in the Zele racing car, which has been driven by pretty much anybody who's had an AutoGP contract this year. The number 8 car, the number 9 car, still been driven by several drivers. They've had musical chairs at Zele Racing all season. They started with Luciano Becchetta. At one point, they also had Narain Karthikeyan at the beginning of the year, don't forget. We had Christian Klein in that squad as well. They've really had fun changing drivers left, right and centre. And now Josef Kral is their local boy for this one race.
Well, they're back. They sat out Nürburgring and Donington.
Sorry, Tom. Pit stop for Sato. So he's decided he's not going to sit in this battle. He's going to go into the pits early. And Tamas Paukis really making Mendet Van Buren work to defend, but he managed to get him. The crucial element in a move like that is how early you start defending. And unfortunately, Mendet just missed the boat there. Tamas had plenty of room to go up the inside.
Textbook stuff. Van Buren, pretty fair. Didn't make it too difficult for Paukis. Paukis had the momentum, the toe, and did the rest in terms of getting through. Now, good stop by Kamiya Sato. He's going to look for clean air. So he basically has elected to pit early and is now just going to get his head down and drive his own race and see where he ends up once the pit stop sequences play out. Not a bad decision from the Euronova Racing squad. He's got nothing to lose, and so it'll be interesting to see now what Campana does. Does he try and get a really quick in lap and pit, or does he do his own race and stay out and risk just dropping away from Sato? But they're definitely the closest. What Sato will be looking to do is get ahead of Paukis and Van Buren. Paukis now very fast at this stage of the race. Now he's got past Van Buren, so it'll be very interesting to see how that works out. So all to play for still in this pit stop sequence. It's a long window, isn't it?
Yes, indeed. And that's the sisters LA Racing car. That's Joseph Kral, local boy, trying to make his move on one of the Ibiza cars. That's Francesco Gianconi he's trying to make his move on. But no, as you say, a good move there from the Euronova team, because Sato, on his own, at the back of the field, he could try and set fastest lap here, and of course you get a point for fastest lap. So again, all to play for. Kral now making his move on the inside. Very nicely done on Gianconi. Well, hang on a minute, he hasn't quite shut the door yet. Very close indeed there. Local boy trying to prove that he's still got what it takes. Kral has had a bit of a stunted campaign since his GP2 and GP3 efforts. It's about time he got himself into a permanent position again, really.
Not the most intelligent of approaches from Gianconi. He should have really let that move go. Instead, he tried to fight Kral into the second apex, turn 15, and he's lost the place now to Kuroda. Played the ultimate price. I would have definitely tucked in behind Kral and surrendered that a little bit earlier, because now track position, everything around Brno, he's lost the place. Or two places, I should say.
Absolutely, and particularly when you've got pit stops to consider. None of these guys have made their pit stop yet. Karthikeyan, fastest lap. Now, why is that important? Well, in AutoGP, you get a point for fastest lap. It's not like Formula One, and with all points counting, there are no dropped scores in this world, then you have to make sure that every single point you score counts. So driving quickly is just as important as finishing high. You have to get a fastest lap if you want that bonus point. And it was interesting to note that Girelli was stuck behind Vizoyu on the opening laps, right on his tail, and he suddenly realized, hang on a minute, I can be smart here. If I give him 3 or 4 kart lengths, I can use his slipstream to gain a bit more momentum. Maybe I can get a fastest lap or 2 here while I'm sat behind him, while I'm waiting to jump him in the pits. That's very smart thinking there for Girelli, a young 19-year-old. Plenty of opportunity there for somebody to pick up that wisdom.
It's whether or not the dirty air hinders him, and that's the incremental point. Obviously, the air travels off the back of these cars. It's useful on a straight because you're driving into a pocket of least resistance. But in the corners, it means that the air traveling over the front wing of your car is disturbed, which means you don't get 100% efficiency in terms of aerodynamics.
So Gianconi and Kuroda both pitting. Now, with the pit stops, you have to complete the first 3 laps, and you're not allowed to pit on the last lap. Now, this is where Vittorio Girelli got penalised earlier in the year at Silverstone, because he came into the pits at the end of the penultimate lap, but in doing so, he crossed the start-finish line to begin the final lap. So the authorities decided that was the final lap, that he made his pit stop. So they penalised him and took away his victory there. So fair enough. That basically means that the beginning of the penultimate lap is the last possible moment you can make a pit stop.
And that's good for Sato, because they were ahead of Sato on the road, Sato having made his stop also. So more clean air for Sato now. Gianconi and Kuroda are out of the way. He's lapping very quickly, a 45.3. As I thought, Paukis also on a 45.3, but Van Buren, interestingly enough, a 47 dead, a 46.9. So plenty of scope here for Sato to leapfrog Van Buren for that 5th place. He's still got to get ahead of Paukis, who's going quickly. I don't think that is going to happen unless Paukis makes a mistake. He'll have to pass him on track later on in the race.
So I have to see none of the top 3 drivers making their pit stop now. So Supernova and Vizoyu, well, Ginzani, I should say, hoping to go long in the race. I would have been surprised. I would have been interested to see when Kevin Giavesi made his stop, because of course he could well have been a factor in this battle. He's been very quick over the course of the practice sessions, and whatever it was that caused him to drop out on the first lap, he has actually given a bit of a lifeline to Sato and to Campana, because it means now, is that Campana in the pits? Yes, it is, the 18.
Well, he's just hemorrhaging time, isn't he, on that rubber, so he's got to come in, get fresh rubber, and and basically try and...
There's Sato. Is he going to beat him out? It's looking like it. Yep, well done, Kamiya Sato, and well done to the Uranova boys. Look how much time they've gained on Sergio Campana. It's amazing that Campana didn't think about that with a bit more care and attention, because he's a guy who's had a season-full experience in AutoGP, and he's really dropped the ball there.
Well, Roda's got ahead of him in the Virtuosi UK car, so Virtuosi, all credit to them. They've made a real great job, great fist of their pit stop, because they've got ahead of the Ibiza Racing Team car of Campana in that pit stop sequence, so goes from bad to worse.
Campana's championship is falling apart in his hands. So Karthikeyan still leading. There he is, the oldest man in the field at 36 years of age, leads the youngest man in the field, Robert Vizio, who is just 17 years of age, the Romanian, with plenty of opportunities for scope in the future. Now you can see that Girelli is actually dropping back a bit now from Vizio. Now, is he just playing the percentages here? What's he doing?
Well, it's just dirty air. He's about as close as you can really get without losing efficiency. If you get any closer, it's a bit of a nightmare, because you start to, that's Giovese making his way back, but you start to use too much of your front tyres. There's not enough downforce on the front of your car. You start to go past the slip angle on the entry to corners and really use too much of the fronts. The tyres then overheat and you have a performance drop-off. Vizio is doing an incredible job. He's actually keeping Karthikeyan a lot more honest than I thought he would. That's not because I don't rate Vizio. I rate him incredibly highly, doing a really good job in GP3 this year, as well as his AutoGP campaign. I just thought Karthikeyan was too quick for everyone this weekend, but actually Vizio has other ideas.
Yes, indeed, and Karthikeyan, of course, is 19 years Vizio senior, so he's been there, seen it, done it all, even been in Formula One for 3 full seasons of campaigning, so he knows what to expect of single-seater racing. Vizio, very much the new boy, and he's really taking it to him. Karthikeyan has done everything from Super League Formula to Le Mans to representing his country for the A1 Grand Prix World Cup, which is, of course, it was a very similar car to this. It was what the championship was originally based around. He's done NASCAR trucks. He's done what was originally the World Series by Renault. In those days, it was known as the Telefonica World Series by Nissan. It came from Formula Nippon, Formula 3 in the UK. So this guy is no slouch. He knows how to be competitive at the top of single-seater racing. And Vizio, well, he's still very much a new guy to cars. I think he only did his first car season 2 years ago.
Well, Vizio started karting in 2003. That's how young he is. In Vizio's second year of karting, Karthikeyan was in Formula 1.
Well, there you go. That just tells you the difference between them. And Vizio, I've seen some flashes of potential over the course of this season from him, but his lap times consistently quicker than Karthikeyan now. The last lap, Karthikeyan did a 1:45.6. Well, Vizio's 4/10 up on him, so he's really showing his hand here.
And another stat, in Karthikeyan's second year of car racing in '96, Formula Asia, Vizio was born.
Well, there you go then. That tells you the difference between these two. Van Buren, I believe this is, having a bit of a fight. Has he just made his pit stop? I think he has.
That's LaRocca.
Oh, no, sorry, my apologies.
No, there's Van Buren and LaRocca and De Jong behind.
So he must have, obviously the other drivers in that battle.
No, I don't think these guys haven't pitted.
I mean,
Van Buren's fallen away. That's
Van Buren has lost a lot of time. That's why I was getting confused, because he's a full 2 seconds a lap adrift of the leading pack.
Yeah, he's
and
got no pace.
That's slowing up LaRocca, it's slowing up De Jong. If he's not careful, he's going to have the likes of, you know, Sato, Roda and Campana on his heels before long. He really needs to consider making a pit stop. He's not going to get points here if he keeps this up.
And LaRocca, US Formula 4 2000 champion last year, in with Comtech by Virtuosi. So Comtech, very famous junior team, come from Britain. David Sears' neck of the woods, Norfolk. And they've formed a partnership with Virtuosi, who are already in this championship.
And they're going full-time next year, I believe, aren't they?
They are going full-time, but they found a young driver, LaRocca, who's very, very talented. And so they made their debut, I think it was Donington.
Absolutely right.
Nürburgring, then Donington,
sorry, yes,
yeah.
it was. So plenty more to see from this young Venezuelan. And now Van Buren pits in. Well, little too late, I think, in my opinion, but at least he finally gets out of the way and allows LaRocca and de Jong to scrap for points. I seriously can't see Mender Van Buren getting in the points with this one because he's just lost too much time.
He might be going for a reverse pole.
Ah, very true. Good point.
This does happen.
Josef Kral coming into the pits as well, the local man. His first weekend in an AutoGP World Series car. He was the reason we had a red flag yesterday in the qualifying, so I think it's a bit early to say. I think they've got a problem with Van Buren's tyre.
They've got a massive problem, so forget the reverse pole because...
Yep, forget points, forget everything. He probably started from the back. That's absolutely atrocious. Look at that. Serious problems getting the right rear on. Nothing they can do about it at the moment. Now they're still struggling. Is there a problem with the wheel bearing there? Is there a problem with the nut? Goodness knows.
It'll be the nut.
Oh, and Kral's now stalled it. Dear, oh dear. We see things from the front and the back of the grid today. Josef Kral stalls his car on his first pit stop in AutoGP World Series in front of his home fans. That's got to be a demoralising moment.
Yeah, this is not a pit lane masterclass in the last couple of minutes.
And he very nearly crashed into the side of the pit wall on the way out as well. Desperation creeping in for Josef Kral there.
Yeah, the MP Manor MP Motorsport team having a problem, and Josef Kral creating his own issues, stalling that ZA Racing car.
Right, into the pits then comes Girelli. So Girelli has pitted from third position, just as Karthikeyan approaches Josef Kral to lap him for the first time. There is Girelli in the pits. So this is about track position now. Can he leap Robert Vizoyu in the pit stops?
Change of strategy for Supernova. A lot of teams going for the rears because these cars, a lot of horsepower. You tend to use the rears slightly more than the fronts. That said, Girelli has chosen the fronts. That might hinder his outlap here because it's difficult to get heat in the fronts. It's easier to get heat in the rears. So he has to be really quick here to make it count and leapfrog Vizoyu. This is de Jong in the pit lane. I think Vizoyu will pit very soon to cover position there. I think ultimately he has to cover Girelli rather than go for the win. I think Karthikeyan's too strong. It's about picking and choosing your battles wisely. LaRocca out of the pits ahead of de Jong, so it's as they were. Good stuff from the team. Very
close between those two, and that's as it should be, because LaRocca will really have wanted to jump de Jong in the pit stops. Having been stuck behind Mender Van Buren for so long, he really needed to get out in front of Daniel de Jong to maintain any advantage he had beforehand. And I do believe that Van Buren is a long way behind these guys now. So that really did tell. Karthikeyan, and he's just lapped Josef Kral, so that could be the race-winning moment there, lapping Kral before he makes his own pit stop, because he's between him and Vizoyu. Karthikeyan's not pitting. Now, where is Vizoyu? He's not pitting either. And Karthikeyan, what on earth is that? Karthikeyan out of the final turn, throwing up the dust as he comes off the final corner, so you can see that the Indian really is pushing hard. And well, behind them, Tamas Palkis is starting to push hard, the Hungarian. He's just set the fastest lap, 1:44.7. So Karthikeyan, I'm not quite sure what happened there. Was that a bit of brain fade?
No, he's just pushing and just got wide. It's just the nature of turn 15. You're chasing the throttle from quite an early point in the corner, and he's just got too much throttle on, and he hasn't come off. Yeah, well,
he just travelled on the curb.
Yeah, it's almost as if he looked in his mirrors or did something. And yeah, I take that back. Yeah, that was not on the exit. That was Karthikeyan all by himself.
Yeah, he made it. Look, he makes the exit of the corner, no problem. He's on the curb. And look, it just seems like it drifts to the left.
I think he gets on the AstroTurf whilst building the throttle, which has just sucked him onto the grass there. That's what it was.
So bizarre incident from the race leader then, Narayan Karthikeyan, trying to get away from Robert Vizoyu, and Tamas Palkis, the Hungarian, who's looking good for a podium here. I know that Girelli has obviously made a pit stop and he was a long way ahead when he made that stop, but Tamas Palkis is flying around this racetrack. He's looked after his tyres better than the two in front of him, and that means that he's got more pace. He's got the potential to get a fastest lap here. That's what he's got. Karthikeyan and Vizoyu, well, it might not be too long before Vizoyu or Girelli are being hassled by Tamas Palkis for the podium here.
Yeah, I don't think Palkis will have the pace to catch these two. He's certainly got the pace to maybe hassle Girelli, depending on how Girelli gets on over the next few laps. Interestingly enough, this is Viso Yu pitting, so I thought he would, and this is really to cover off Girelli, and this will be exciting. And they dropped it off the front.
They have indeed. That's a very bad mistake. They were clearly under pressure making that error. They changed the fronts rather than the rears. So we'll have to see where Girelli is on the track. Is he going to be able to beat the Gonzani car out? Dropping it off the jack is definitely not going to help them. It's going to put them on the back foot. Where is Girelli? Here he comes. It's going to be very close on the exit of turn 1 because, of course, there's not going to be as much momentum built up for Viso Yu. Here comes Girelli right on the tail. And I would not be surprised if Girelli tries a move. He's already alongside him. He's really worked for it. He knows he's only got one chance to get second place. Oh my goodness, this is brilliant. Down to the left-hander on the inside. Girelli's going to take him. Nicely done.
Yeah, and that is a legacy of cold front tyres. Viso Yu just a bit too ginger around turns 1 and 2. Girelli with front tyres up to full temperature, managing to really capitalise on the momentum that he had. He was very boisterous, wasn't he, up the inside? And you'd expect that from somebody chasing the championship crown. Karthikeyan will pit fairly soon to cover these cars off. We've got yellows, so that's somebody that's dropped it on the exit by the looks of things. We can't see where they are. It's just because of the crest in the road. But really good stuff from Girelli. And I tell you what, they'll be bemoaning dropping that car. I said earlier before the pit stops that the team play a real part, because any time lost in the pit lane is an eternity off track. And as I said, Karthikeyan in to cover position.
Well, that's the last possible moment he could have made the pit stop as well. That's Cerruti who's made that spin, the former Italian Superstars driver, spinning off there. Disappointing to see, but Karthikeyan, the last man in, basically. This is the start of the penultimate lap. And looks like, no, sorry, Tomas Palkis is in as well. So he's chosen the last possible moment to pit in as well. So those are the first two choosing the last possible moment to pit. Now, I'm confident that Karthikeyan will get out in the lead, but where will Tomas Palkis come out? Looks like they're having problems with the wheel as well. Certainly not quite as fluid as it should have been. Karthikeyan's already gone. There goes Girelli through to second. There goes Viso Yu through to third. And there goes Sato through to fourth. Talk about a comeback from Sato. Great
I told
work.
you, pitting early, it really did work out. All that clean track. He's just driven his own race the whole time. He's not had to concentrate on anybody in front. He's just push, push, push. It's almost been a qualifying session, and he's made it count. Palkis, actually, I thought he'd be slightly higher up. It wasn't the fastest stop in the world. Maybe dropped to second, and that second is the difference between Sato and where he is now. And so, good stop nevertheless for Supernova, always professional. One of the patterns of thinking behind choosing the rears over the fronts is A, you have a quicker outlap, B, there's no jackman in front of your car, so it's worth half a second. If you drop it off the rear jack, the car just goes. If you drop it off the front jack, you've got to wait for the guy to get out of the way. And also you have cold front tyres, so your outlap is fairly slow. So that, when you're talking about tyres that are fairly robust in terms of how long you can stay on them, that's one of the patterns of thinking that you tend to find.
Lessons learned throughout the field then, from the front and the back of the field. Yellow flag still waving for Cerruti, who obviously dropped it on the exit as we saw. But it's a 1-2 for Supernova. Karthikeyan out in front of Vittorio Girelli. Third position now is Viso Yu. Fourth place is Kimiya Sato. That's pretty much the best of a bad job, really. He was never really going to be on terms with the Supernova boys in terms of overall pace. But as you said, that strategy, pitting early and then just running out on his own, that's helped him as we begin the final lap.
Yeah, it's been a really good race as we've seen the pit stop strategies play out. Difficult to pass on track here at Brno, and we have seen a fair bit of overtaking. And really, we've seen a lot of mistakes in the pit lane as well, and it just shows that it's not just the driver that makes it count here in MotoGP. And, you know, let's look at Karthikeyan. He's driven a great race, and his team delivered a great pit stop. And that is the difference between him and everybody else. Had they made a mistake, Girelli would have been through.
Well, Karthikeyan is about to become the most successful driver this year in terms of wins. He's about to steal his 5th win, which now puts him ahead of Sato rather than alongside him. But we look at Karthikeyan, Girelli and Sato, and down in 7th position.
8th.
Eighth position now. Sergio Campana. Oh, we've got a nice little battle, and this is those two.
Well, this is reverse pole.
Oh yeah, this is the battle for reverse pole. See, Sergio Campana knows that his best chance of starting from pole position for...
No, he's got ahead of Roda,
He has got ahead of Roda, yes, so that's a problem. He's going to be at the front, but he's not going to be on the pole. It's looking like LaRocca's going to be on the reverse pole.
Roda on the front row with him.
Indeed, so that's going to be quite difficult for Campana. He knows now he can't win race 1. He's got no chance at all. The only chance he's got is to be at the front ready for race 2. But Karthikeyan is about to take one step closer to 2nd in the championship. Behind Girelli, he's now got to hope for a DNF for Girelli, really. But a masterclass performance from Supernova today. Narain Karthikeyan wins race 1 here at Brno. 2nd is Vittorio Girelli, and that means 5 wins for Karthikeyan, 7 wins for Supernova this season. And once again, Girelli continues and in fact completes his 100% strike rate for finishing on the podium at every championship round. He has now finished on the podium for all 8 race circuits this year. Robert Viziu as well, the youngest man in the field, his 2nd podium of the year, as Kamiya Sato comes home 4th ahead of Tomas Palkis. 6th is Campana, 7th is Roda, and the man who starts reverse pole tomorrow is LaRocca.
Yeah, and just putting that into context, since Karthikeyan has switched from Zelle Racing to Supernova, he's scored 5 wins out of the last 9 races.
9 races, yeah. It's an amazing performance from Karthikeyan. Why didn't he start the season with them? We'd be talking about a champion right now. Now he's having to play catch-up on Vittorio Girelli. Now, the big question is, who set the fastest lap? I think it might actually have been Narain Karthikeyan. I think he did it right at the last. 1:44.80. No, it was Tomas Palkis. Nobody bettered that 1:44.7. So when we come back after the break, we'll figure out how that all shapes up for the championship heading into tomorrow. It's not won yet. So very close indeed then, this championship fight. Karthikeyan picking up a win over Girelli, 25 points to 18. And it's going to be very interesting to see how that makes things in the championship fight. Join us after the break for the podium.
Kumho Tires, official partner of Kumho Tires, official partner of AutoGP.
Welcome back to Brno. Narain Karthikeyan sealing race 1 after a brilliant drive, and here is the championship points. Girelli has 210 to Karthikeyan's 195, just 15 points behind now. Sato is now down to 18 points adrift, and those 3 are still in contention. Sergio Campana, however, is 28 points back, and that means that no matter what happens, he's out of the championship fight. So there were 4, now there are 3.
After I'd spent all of the commercial break doing the maths there, my famous mathematics, and they put the driver's point up on the screen. So
helpful of them.
I think Kamiya Sato's under big pressure tomorrow from Karthikeyan. Girelli has to finish and finish well. Campana has got his work cut out, as you said. Interestingly enough, Palkis has just leapfrogged Giovesi for 5th because Giovesi broke down on the first lap through no fault of his own.
There's the race results then. Karthikeyan beating Girelli over the line by 3.3 seconds, with the youngster Robert Viziu claiming his 2nd podium of the season. Kamiya Sato using a great strategy to beat Tomas Palkis just over the line. Sergio Campana down in 6th ahead of Roda and LaRocca. De Jong beats Snegerev to the final 2 places in the top 10, with Kuroda, Van Buren, Draconi, La Rosa, Kral and the spun Cerruti. There she is being recovered, with Giovesi not even making the end of the first lap with a mechanical problem. So it means that we have just 3 drivers now in contention for the championship, and the man with everything to gain is Vittorio Girelli. Look at that, 15 points ahead. That basically means that he can finish, well, what's the lowest position he can actually finish tomorrow? Because there's only 20 points available for a win, 21 points available overall.
Are you asking me to do mental maths live on air?
I'm not going to do it again. No, I'm not going to ask you to do it again.
No, Girelli, I mean, ultimately, let's say that...
I think he can finish no lower than 6th, really, tomorrow.
Karthikeyan finishes with fastest lap. He will be 221. Gorelli needs then at least 12 points, which means...
I think he'd need to be fourth or better, I think,
yeah,
basically. So fourth or better is all he needs now to be the champion. So it's looking very good indeed for Vittorio Gorelli.
Karthikeyan wins from 8th, so yes, lots to play for. How exciting is tomorrow going to be? I can't wait.
Especially considering that Kamiya Sato is going to be a man on a mission, and desperation could well play a theme in tomorrow's race. Supernova walk it, but that's just part one of a brilliant championship deciding weekend. And who is going to be the ultimate champion? Vittorio Gorelli, Narayan Karthikeyan, or will it be Kamiya Sato? All to play for tomorrow, and there's still plenty of action to come from Brno this weekend, and more pit stops tomorrow as well.
Indeed. Nice montage here of all of today's action.
I think that particular move they just showed, Gorelli making the move on Vizoyu, that could have been the moment the championship was won there, because all he has to do is sit behind Karthikeyan tomorrow, and he's done it. It's very much Gorelli's championship title to lose here.
And I tell you what, heading into turn 1, mid-pack, 7th place, didn't get a great start today. It's going to be tough for Gorelli because you're exposed. When you're right in the middle of the back, you really are exposed. So, you know, anything can happen. It's not always in your own hands heading into turn 1 in that position.
Robert Vizoyu, 3rd position, the Romanian. 2nd place, Vittorio Gorelli. But the winner, the Indian, Formula 1 driver for Jordan, Williams test driver and HRT Grand Prix driver of the past, Narayan Karthikeyan. He certainly hit his form, if only he'd hit it at the first round of the championship at Monza. So the national anthem for India. Oh, well, they've decided to give the trophies first. So Robert Vizoyu, a very strong performance in that race. 17 years of age. He certainly showed that he's got potential for next year, Tom.
Yeah, he has, definitely. I wonder why they haven't done the national anthems. They normally play out on the MotoGP podium. So maybe a problem with the sound system here at Brno.
They need a better DJ, I think.
But yeah, plenty of talent on that podium. Karthikeyan still got it, hasn't he? Gorelli put himself in the limelight. There'll be plenty of teams looking at him in World Series by Renault and GP2, and hear the anthems after all.
Not necessarily the most respectful thing to do, to cut off the end of an anthem, but obviously time is tight at Brno this weekend. But Narayan Karthikeyan, very much the man in form. 5 wins from 9 races for Supernova. It sadly doesn't put him in the hot seat for tomorrow. He's got to do all the work and drive through from 8th on the grid. But Gorelli, his teammate, right alongside him, and it'll be who gets the best start that has the upper hand heading to turn 1 tomorrow. But Supernova with a masterclass performance 1-2. Narayan Karthikeyan and Vittorio Gorelli leading the way home. Gorelli showing his fighting spirit with his move on Robert Vizoyu after the pit stops. Kamiya Sato, good strategy from the Euronova team to bring things back to 4th place, but very much the best of a bad job. It's all going to be to play for tomorrow. Who will it be? Karthikeyan, Gorelli, or Sato? Find out tomorrow.
Kumho Tires, official partner of AutoGP.
Journey back through history with Forge of Empires.